Thank you for joining, everyone. I hope Sam now will just begin the presentation and share his screen.
Good morning. My name is Ehsan Ul Haq. I have been working with ICON in one form or another for almost 20 years. I mean, I started working in the oil industry in 1994 at an Austrian company called OMV. Then I joined a consulting company in Vienna called JBC, and then I moved to KBC, and then 3 years ago I joined Refinitiv.
I might start a call.
So I will, because I have been working with ICON, I have somehow a setup which provides me the opportunity to look at everything. So first of all, I will introduce to that setup. Then I will go to our oil application, oil research application, and at the end I will show you a bit about our research. So if you can see my ICON setup here. So when I start my day, because I work mainly on two reports. The first one is a daily report where I normally write every second week talking about the oil market and some of our analysis. And then I also work on our weekly crude flows report, which not only tells about how oil is moving from one region to another, but also the fundamentals behind it. So my setup, when I start my day, normally I come to this page. So what you can see here on the left side are key futures prices. On the right side, we have European refined product prices. On the right bottom, we have Asian product prices. And on the left bottom, I have US product prices. So the first thing I look at is, I mean, the first question I ask when I start the day is, where are prices? Where are key WTI and Brent prices? So for that, either I have to go to this setup or I write oil after using the key F4. So I come to this page and where I can see, for example, where ICE Brent is at 68.88, WTI is 66.13. But I can also look at European product prices where premium unleaded is. For that, I use the RIC called PROD EUR. Similarly, I have APROD for Asian prices and PROD US for US prices. The second thing when I start my day is what has happened, why are prices going up or down. For that, I normally go to this page. For that, I mean, I look at a news code O/R. And if I click on the first news story, it tells me why oil is steady, demand optimism offsets worries of Iranian supply. People are talking about more Iranian supply coming on stream. So this is the second thing I look at. I mean, the third most important, the third important thing for me is to what is moving prices. For that, I normally go to this page where I have top news energy. Top news energy, you can have access to top news energy either writing top O/top, or just I have set up in under refined product prices. Here, for example, I can find what is moving prices. I mean, for example, there are few things which are related to the global oil price movement. There are other things which are just related to a regional market. For example, in this page, I can see this is could be, for example, important. Russia's Novak I mean, the energy minister says global oil deficit seen at 1 million barrels per day. So he says that if you look at supply and demand balance, so stocks are being depleted at a rate of 1 million barrels per day. Then I have other news stories. Oil gains as demand optimism offset fears of supply. Then Shanghai Future Exchange to curb unreasonable price swings, which is probably not relevant for the daily report. Similarly, I can have other news stories. I normally go to these news stories. This is what I normally do every day. Other key things in my setup are, for example, about individual crude reports, which I find very interesting when I'm writing the weekly crude report. I mean, we have North Sea prices here. For example, North Sea prices are here. For that, the code is CRU/E. I have Mediterranean prices, CRU/MED, West African prices, CRU/WAF, etc., etc. So similarly, I have set up for refined product prices. If I look at that, I have European prices. For that, I have the abbreviation, news abbreviation PRO/E. I have Asian light distillates prices, LDIS/A, and then middle distillate prices from Asia, MDIS/A. Then similarly, I have prices for the US. It's PRO/U, and then European prices, as I mentioned before, PRO/E, but also prices about the whole refined, I mean, from every region. For that, I only need the abbreviation PROD. So similarly, I mean, I have fuel oil search, which I use to look at fuel oil prices. So this is what I do as far as refined products are concerned. In addition to that, I also occasionally look at crude differentials. Crude differentials, for example, I have BF4 related crude differentials. For that, I use, I mean, this abbreviation O#BF4-diff. Similarly, I have other prices, US prices, world crude prices, and Asian crude prices. In addition to that, I occasionally look at oil flows, how oil is moving from one region to another. I can look at fuel oil flows from one country to another. I can even look at which vessel is carrying what. And then, I mean, I can also, for example, I can look at crude flows from the United States to the United Kingdom. I just have to write United Kingdom and then click, and I can change, for example, volume from kilotons to barrels. Similarly, I have clean product flows, etc., etc. And the last thing which I have in my setup is IMAP. IMAP, if I want to follow a certain vessel which is carrying, I can see it how the vessel is moving. But in addition to that, I can look at refineries in different regions. If I click on oil refineries, for example, I know where refineries are. I mean, Epilome refineries in Genoa in Italy, for example. I can also look at physical infrastructure. I can look at pipelines, etc. Basins, for example, the US crude basins, shale basins. So these are Permian Basin, for example. These are the things which I can find out in my setup. So a bit about analysis. I mean, in addition to, I also follow columns by John Kemp. You certainly know John Kemp. For that, I have, also this setup where I search for Kemp and Asian commodities, because I also find analysis about Asian commodities. I look at, I also have analysis search for crude oil. For that, I use CRU and analysis and Reuters News RTRS in order to find news analysis stories from Reuters. Similarly, for products, for that I have product and prod and analysis. And in addition to that, I can have access to daily commodity brief. I mean, if you haven't subscribed to this report, you can still subscribe to this report, because you can have an overview of all commodities in this I mean commodities brief. So this is what I do when I start my day. But the second way of looking at these things is to go to our oil research app. For that, I have to write crude here, and once I click it, if I click on the first one, I get to this app. I mean, the first thing for this report, for this I mean oil app, is that in overview you can find almost everything. You have key news stories, you have charts, you have real-time prices, you have even analysis and information about our different reports in the right column. But if you want to look at individual news, you can go to News tab and find news stories which are impacting oil prices. You have latest oil news, most read news, and even some analysis, and also a daily I mean news brief and market overview. But this is not the only thing you can find in app. You can also go to pricing and find all prices, not only futures prices, but also OTC prices, swap prices from our analysts, compiled by our analysts, and which they assess 2 to 4 times a day. And for example, we have Clean Products Asia, and if you click on that, you can find, for example, how naphtha prices in Japan are, and Eurobob swap at different times in that region. Similarly, you can also have commitment of traders from the US, etc., etc. So all these things are here. Then the next thing I wanted to show was we have production related news. For example, if you want to know how OPEC is complying with its production cuts, you have their production number and how their compliance is for the last month. Similarly, we have North Sea crude output, I mean the loading schedule. We have similarly Baker Hughes rig count for different regions, etc., etc. But if you want to go further and to look at supply and demand, we have 2 key contributors to this tab. One is the US EIA, where they have their actual demand figures and supply figures and their forecast. Similarly, we have Jody data. Jody data also shows similar data, but it's about the past. And I mean, Jody is a cooperation between oil producers and oil consumers, and you can find a lot of information about that in this tab. But after looking at supply and demand, you want to know where the balance stands. And balance is, I mean, the key indicator of balance is stocks or inventories. We can find, for example, in addition to API data in the US and EIA stock data, which is released once a week, we also have I mean Reuters poll. Reuters poll tells us what different analysts are thinking, how I mean stock data released. For example, later today will show, for example, I mean for the forecast on the 21st of May, Reuters poll says that the crude stock will go down by 1.1 million barrels per day. Similarly, I mean, we have your oil stock data here and ARA data. ARA data in ARA region. But there's only one thing missing, which you can find in the news stories, which is Singapore stock. You have to search for that because it's because of some legal reasons we are unable to publish that. So I already told you about flows, but one thing is worth mentioning is refining tab. If you go to the refining tab, then you will find information not only about refining outages in different regions, but also about information about individual refineries. So, if, for example, so this is how it looks like. I mean, you can have refinery outages. You can find information about individual refineries. And the last but not the least is our refining margin assessments. For example, if we are looking at Northwest European margins, you have refinery margins assessment, for example, Urals and a topping refinery, Urals and a cracking refinery, Arab Light in Northwest Europe, Arab Light and topping refinery, cracking refinery, and coking refinery. In addition to that, we have something special, which is called crude slate refining margins. What we normally do is that because we track data as far as oil flows are concerned, we know which crude is coming to which region. As a result, we take the average of these grades and then take refined product prices and deduct crude prices and other adjustment to find our crude slate refining margin. And we have the value not only on the spot basis, but also for next few months. So this is how we do things. But I mean, in addition to that, we have a lot of tools in this section, and we can have access to a lot of data, a lot of statistics if you are interested. But the thing I wanted to show is our analysis tab. So this is, for example, the report which I often write, which is the daily oil market report. So, I mean, it deals about why oil prices have been moving and a bit about our oil research. And in addition to that, we have a number of other reports. We have daily reports, I mean, daily, weekly, and monthly reports. And you can click on that to find a bit more. But you have also, you can also click on the left side and go to these reports. For example, this is the report I write once a week. This is about European crude oil flows. This report contains not only information about flows, but it shows what was behind that. For example, this the second paragraph shows that the margins for most light sweet grades recovered. But I mean, medium sour margins were not doing well. And what was behind movement in the, what was happening in the physical North Sea market? We had a relatively flat market structure last week. Crude differentials were relatively strong with Brent and 40s at a premium of 80 cents to dated Brent. So all these things. Similarly, we have the Mediterranean section where we show how much crude was coming to the Mediterranean region and how the market was behaving, what was happening with the with Urals. Same case with Russian exports, where Russian exports were moving to, and West Africa, and what happened last week. The Angolan loading schedule was released, so etc. etc. So in addition to that, I mean, we have also I mean, refined product reports, and this is, for example, the U.S. refined product report, which shows not only information, vessel movement, but also what was behind these vessel movements and what was happening to refining. Different refineries. In addition to that, we have recently added this section, which is called, dashboard. Here you can find all the information about exports, imports, pricing, and then gasoline and naphtha flows. And similarly, we have, imports from different regions to the U.S. And also number of charts. So, in fact, we have so much information. You can spend hours and hours if you really want to do. And the last thing I wanted to show was our sys data. If you write syscom, you can get to this page where you find a lot of information about our Russian and Caspian, so all FSU country data. For example, here you find information about crude oil, Russian crude exports, Kazakh crude exports, etc. So Urals prices as at export. For example, in Poland, Germany, etc. Similar prices. LPG movements, gasoline, and a lot of statistics and freight information as well. So these are the key things. If you have any questions regarding this, any other thing, please let us know, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions. So now I hand over to Jeff, who would show you how to download some of this data and put it in a visual form with the help of Power BI, etc. Over to Jeff, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm Director of Oil and Shipping Research at Refinitiv. And this part has been showing you how to get it out of Icon and into various tools for further analysis. So my background is on the modeling side, and particularly our cargo tracking systems and our shipping analytics. And what I'm showing you now is sort of how we do our analysis within the oil and shipping research team at Refinitiv. So these are the tools that we use to make the reports that Ehsan has just showed you. We're going to do a very simple example. We're going to export WTI and Brent into Excel, Python, and Power BI. Some of these you will know how to do, so apologies for that. It will be quite quick. Power BI is a data visualization tool like Tableau or Spotfire, but a bit about that later. And I'll show you how to, what the setup is for Python and Power BI. Okay, so first of all, just a quick one on Excel. We're going to sort of drag and drop some data into Excel and just use the formula builder, and that'll just sort of set the scene for us. So if I just show my screen, let's bring up a chart. I get my Excel. Where's my Excel? Okay, so very simply, bread and butter. Oops. Okay, we can drag and drop data from our charts directly into Excel. And what we can also do is we can use the formula builder. So this is Icon Excel. There's a formula builder at the top here. Let's build a formula. And the way I like to explain this is it's got sort of three sections. You choose your instruments, then you choose your fields, and then you choose your parameters. So let's just do Brent again. And we're going to click on the time series button, so I'm on the time series, and just a very simple chart. So, or time series, I'm on the timestamp and the close. And then on the right here, we've got the parameters. Let's put some parameters in. We're going to go for the 27th of, when is it? Let's try and match it to what we have what we took out from the chart and bring it to tomorrow. And then we're just going to put ascending to make the sort orders the same. So we just bring that in, and you can see same price. So we've copied it over from the chart. We've taken it over from using the Excel, Icon Excel formula builder. Okay, so that's sort of the Excel part. So let's move on. So that's tool number one. Tool number two, let's look at Python. So increasingly, we within the oil and shipping research team at Refinitiv use Python and other tools, and we see our customers doing the same. We have libraries, the Icon Data API, the Refinitiv Data Platform APIs, which you can use now to get that data into your Python code, and then you can automate, do your analysis, use Jupyter Notebooks, whatever it needs to be. So once you have Python installed on your computer, and there are many different ways of doing it. I mean, we use an Anaconda install, if you want to know. But there's sort of three things you need to do. You need to install the libraries, you need to generate an app key, and you need to try out some code. So that's what we're going to try now. And it's all here in the presentations. We can send this to you afterwards. So that down, get rid of that. So we use something called Spyder to run Python, and Jupyter Notebooks. So this is Spyder. It's a way of running Python code. And to sort of, once you have Python, you need to install the libraries, and you do this by running in a console pip install icon. That will install your icon libraries, and pip install refinitiv.data platform. And that will install your Refinitiv Data Platform libraries. So that will get you, basically, it means you have the functions to call the Icon Data APIs on your machine. Okay. So that's step one. And now the kind of way that it works is, if you have Icon installed in your machine, like I have at the top here running, then you also automatically have the Icon and the Data Platform APIs, or that service, running on your laptop too. So if you have Icon installed in your machine, that means you can run Python and use Python on your machine too. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a snippet of code. So there's my little snippet of code. I'm going to copy that and bring it into Python. So here's my code. And you can see just the main call is a function call. It's very simple, and it's very similar to an Icon Excel formula. But you'll see the one thing we need is an app key. So the APIs, everything, they need a unique identifier to know that you are, that you have a license, that you have a license, you're licensed to use this data, etc. And you can actually, it's very easy to generate an app key. You just type app key in Icon, and you get the app key generator. And then what you would do is you create specify a new name, so my new app key, and specify the APIs that you want. And then you register a new app, and you get one down here with the new app key. So this is my app key, the one that starts with D35. Let's just copy that. And I'm just going to specify my app key, and then I'm going to run this code. And these are variables that we've called. So we've got a Brent and WTI. And if I open up the Brent's one, what works is we've got 4932, which is 4932. So same data. And this is really the basic building blocks of a Jupyter Notebook or a Python script, where you can start to pull in data and then do your own analysis and build on. Really, the world is your oyster. So that's the Python part. So let's go back to my presentation. So if you can get your data or access data into Python, it actually means you can use lots of other tools, because lots of other tools understand Python. So we in the oil and shipping research team, we use Power BI. It's a data visualization tool, and we use it to create our reports and do some of our analysis. You can also use tools such as Tableau or Spotfire. it's really sort of whatever you have within your company. We use Power BI just simply because it's part of our Office 365 license. And yeah, I'm going to show you sort of a very quick demo of how you get your data into Power BI. But we really use Power BI though because it's the visuals, the visualization, the analysis we can do is really impressive, and it's also you can automate it. Once you've built your report, your dashboard in Power BI, it's very easy to refresh it. Okay, so there's normally two parts to this. You first need to sort of create that snippet of code to access the data, and that's what we just did. And then you need to load it into Power BI. So here's Power BI, a brand new one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some data. So I'm going to get some data up here. And I'm going to, there's loads of different ways you can get data into Power BI. I'm going to choose a Python script. And the Python script I'm going to use is the same Python script that I've just created. And I'm going to put it in here. So this is my snippet of code. So it's going to basically call, when it runs, it's going to call icon, the icon data file, retrieve that data, and then bring it into Power BI. And here are the two data sets. So we've got Brent and WTI. So here are the two data sets. And I'm just going to load that in. That's my data source. Okay. Okay, so once it's loaded in, I can then start to build a visualization, a report. So I'm actually going to just create a line chart. And what you do is you choose the fields you want to display. So I'm going to just do WTI first, and just a normal date stamp. And here's WTI in a chart in Power BI. One more also going to do is just double check when you bring data in, you just check it's all the right types. I just want to check that we have the numbers are numbers and the dates are dates. And so the data is formatted well. So I actually want to show Brent as well. So let's bring Brent in as well. And what's happened, I'm trying to chart both of them together, but it hasn't worked. And the reason it hasn't worked is because Power BI doesn't know how to compare these two time series. Doesn't automatically know how to compare date with dates. So I think best practice for handling dates in Power BI is to create a dates table. And it's a script. It's commonly available on the internet. It's available in this slide deck too. But what it does is you create a computer-generated table of dates, and that means it's just a nice way of handling dates, and you can compare time series with other time series. And it's what we do with our research, is kind of the basis of how we build up our books. So once I've got my table in, I can then start to link the data together. So I'm going to link my timestamps with my dates. And then I have a beautiful chart with WTI and Brent. And just to show the power of Power BI is this kind of refresh button. If I hit refresh, not only does it refresh, go and call the data from Icon and go and get the latest amount, it then applies all the rules that you've made. So if you've changed the data type, so if you've removed certain errors, and then does all the linking, and then shows that data, and then displays that data in your report. So we use this a lot within our oil and shipping research team. Ehsan alluded to the reports. You could see this sort of actually in practice. In the oil app analysis, for instance, you'll see like if you go to the middle distillates, you can see our chart book that is built this way, and you can see the styles. So this is a this is built on Power BI. All of this data comes in through various API calls, which we then can refresh and very easily to produce this kind of dashboard or report. So basically, I have very quickly, hopefully not too quickly, shown you how to get sort of WTI or Brent into first Excel, then into Python and into Power BI. A little bit about the setups for Python and Power BI, and then finally we've got some tips and tricks. So really, the tips and tricks are that calendar table that works very well for Power BI. If that happens to be the tool you want to use, you need to do some things around your system settings to make sure that you can run Python. And then finally, for when you're doing Python calls, quite often it's quite hard to know what the fields are that you've got to call. So you can either try in Excel to work out what the fields are, or what works quite well is just to not specify the field value at all, and it basically the APIs will return you the fields that are populated for the various RICs. So for instance, this is a freight rate. If I make this call here, so we've got, what did we put it into test icon? So this is the freight rate data, and we actually the field is a value field. Okay, and this can so basically, if you just don't specify it, so here we don't have one that says close or timestamp, then that will just return what's available, and that should make it a bit easier.
Thank you both. That was really, really good. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone who joined the call today. We did look at very comprehensive data, and not only within ICON, but obviously the Python side of things, when we new technology not everyone has seen before. So it's very important to maybe just follow up with this. I am your customer success manager for this session, but you will have one allocated to your account. Any questions I can see? We haven't got any on the chat, but this may be something that comes after you've started to use the product. I've highlighted here the contact details of our help desk. You've also got support, online support on your messenger, and that's there on demand at any time. So you can always just go into your messenger, press the support button, you'll speak to a live agent. You can request training from the portal, and we also have the email address there. I do appreciate that you all are attending today, and I'm just going to pop the survey on the chat as well. It's essential that you could just click on the link for me, please, and select the 3 boxes that it asks for your response, just about feedback on today's session. You are very welcome now to unmute yourself and ask any questions for those who are on the line, should you need to. If not, obviously, you can just drop me an email, support, or ask your customer success manager that you have got allocated to your account. So just got a few more minutes to the end of the session. You're very welcome to ask any questions.
Hi, everyone. This is Igor. Thanks for the session, first of all. I just wanted to ask Ehsan, if possible, to just repeat once again or show the CIS commodities insight page, because what I'm seeing on ICON is a bit different. And I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing, because this is a bit relevant for some of my clients. So.
Hello, Igor. So just wanted to show you once again how this how you can have access to this Cortex data. So in order to do that, you write sys and com here, and then you get to the sys commodities insight, or you can also write CCIO. You can write one of them, and then you get to that page, and then you have access to different different things coming out of our analyst team in Russia and the FSU countries. So either to write syscomp or just to write CCIO, and then
Okay.
you can have access to different sections of that Cortex.
And
data.
just to reconfirm, because this page is not automatically available for everyone. You need to request access to it. Do I understand that right?
This could be the case. I mean,
Okay.
Adele might know more than I do.
Yeah, and thanks, Barbara.
Yeah,
As Barbara's put on the chat, this is an additional fee to see this. So you will be able to see the actual app and it'll give you an intro, but you won't be able to drill down to the data unless you've got permissions.
Hmm.
So that's an
Okay,
easy.
because I don't have access to it either, but I will just take this offline just to figure out, because some people might be interested to have this. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that'll be something that you can just deal direct with the account manager or the CSM, and we can follow
Mhm.
that after the session.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.